Okay, so continuing with our project to recreate this poser house, you can see here there's some nice lighting inside. We might recreate that, we might not. But what we can see here is that in poser, this down here has picked up entirely the wrong texture. I don't know why it's done it. Maybe it's just a mixed up name, or maybe I clicked on something. Fairly sure I didn't. But right, so we zoom in here, go into the material room and pick up that material, see what material it's got. So for some reason it's picked up the bath texture. Well, that's obviously no good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to DAZ Studio. I'm going to see what texture is on the A-frame cabin. So I'm going to go to Scene, expand this, oops, and I'm going to look at Cabin. So here's the actual cabin, that's the A-frame bit there. Then I'm going to go down to Shader. I'm going to try and work out all of these textures are in that scene, which is a bit weird, really. And I can see here it says A-frame, so I'm going to expand that, click on General, and no, Base. Okay, so here's the texture for there. So what's that called? That's called A-frame done albedo. Okay, so that's presumably this bit and here. And let's have a look at the render again just to compare. Yep, so that's that bit. Okay, so what was it again? A-frame done albedo, something like that. Something really unhelpful. A-frame done albedo. So let's go to poser and replace this bathroom one with A-frame done albedo. And immediately you can see that's fixed that problem. Now, here's the problem. I will just quickly render this again while I explain the problem. Here's the problem. OBJ file does not carry a wide range of info, and DAZ's exporter perhaps transfers even less. DAZ is capable, one of the things that really elevates DAZ above poser now is the quality of the materials, that they have more channels and it's more complicated. That being said, I mean, Cycles and Superfly provide superb materials in a different way. However, DAZ's OBJ export doesn't convert for Cycles. OBJ just doesn't carry that much information. So what we need to do is try to recreate the material. So what we've got at the moment is the bitmaps and pretty much nothing else. So we need to work out what's going on. So, and this is where it can be really time consuming. So we know what the base color is. Now let's scroll down this material and see if there's anything else going on. And I'm not going to go into every single detail. For now, I'll just start with the basic stuff. Glossy roughness. You could consider that to be specular, and base bump. So just looking at them, we can see here base bump is A-frame done B, and what was glossy roughness? A-frame done B again. So they've actually used the bump map as a specular map as well. So we can give that a try. So go back in to the material room and pick up that material here, A-frame done. So they've plugged that color map into specular color. Let's try instead 2D texture. So I right clicked on the background, new node, 2D textures, image map. And now I'm going to hopefully, yes, it's gone straight into the same directory. And here's the A-frame and here's the map. And because they plugged that into two places, both specular or glossy roughness as they call it, and bump, we can just drag here from there in two places. Now, here's where the I guess the experience or just the suck it and see-ness, if you like, comes into it. So I'm zooming in so that I can see that clearly, and I'm just going to do an area render here because I don't know how much bump I need to do. That's clearly way too much. Yeah, that looks horrible. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce that bump amount. So let's say 0.1 there, 0.01. And the specular, we haven't even thought about that really much yet. Clearly doesn't need to be, specular 1 is full brightness, although you can go above that. So it's wood. So how specular is wood? Well, specular is the shininess, if you like. And this is meant to be like some kind of oak beam. So if you look at oak beams, you could say they've got zero shininess at all, or you could say just very low shininess. So let's just say here, just 0.1 for now, we'll be fine. So let's see if that looks any better. So this obviously doesn't look really as bad on the roughness now. I'm damn certain it's not as good as theirs. Bet they've got right. So theirs is quite a dark color. This is where the playing back and forwards comes. So although the wood is quite a light color, it renders quite dark. And I'm going to guess that that's because they've changed the base color somewhere. Oh no, it's actually quite light when you get up close. It was only that distant map that made it look light. Okay, that's odd. So let's compare that to Poser. They're not a billion miles apart from each other. If I really wanted to recreate that color, I could mess around here in Poser with the diffuse color. In fact, that diffuse is grey. I don't know why. I'll change that to white just in case. Or it could be actually that the diffuse on this was grey. Changing it and it might not need it base. Oh no, the diffuse here was actually a grey, 0.54%. So you can see here when I put this number here is really useless, but if you click on it, because that's 0.54 of what, Poser uses this 255 scale, which is also useless, but anyway, but you can see it's a grey of 192, 192, 192. So if I wanted to recreate that manually in Poser, I could just undo what I just did, but I'll just show you how to do it manually instead. I click on that, click on this little gizmo up here, and then I just go up there, what was it, 192, 192, something like that, 192, 192, 192. Anytime the values are all the same in the red, green and blue, that means that you're going to get a grey, black or white. And so we know that we have exactly the same colors as them, but obviously their scene is lit differently. So that's going to make a difference as well. If I go to here, their scene is quite dark, kind of moody, so that it shows off the lights. That's what I love about A-frame houses. They're almost always shown in the blue hour. Whenever somebody takes a photograph of them, the blue hour is the hour just after the sun has gone down below the horizon. And if you know your color theory, the contrast between blue and the warm of the lights is most pleasing. So it's yellow against blue, different sides of the color wheel, and it looks really, really nice. And so that's why they tend to photograph A-frame houses, often in a forest or on a lakeside, and at the blue hour, as I say. So this is in a slightly darker lighting. The lighting's a whole nother issue because the lighting can greatly change your perception of color. You've probably seen that that thing where they have a grey square next to a white square, and then they move the grey square next to a black square, and it looks like a totally different color, even though it's exactly the same square. Well, that's the same things going on here. So your perception of color is affected not only by the lighting in the room, but also by the lighting in the scene as well. So what I would be doing here now is I'd be going, right, so we know these windows need changing. So let me just open up library. I'm going to drag this on top. Oh, let me stop it docking. Okay. Okay, so that's not going to dock now. What I did there, you know, it's really annoying when I'm trying to do a tutorial for you and I start dragging windows from off screen and then they start auto docking. So what I just did there was I just click this little triangle in the corner and turn drag docking off so it can't drag dock. So now I'm going to go to my materials and I'm just going to use a predefined material. So this is Vince Bagner's set of Superfly materials. Oh, actually, okay, this would be physically more accurate, but it won't be transparent because if you recall, I've said many, many times that Poser's cycles preview doesn't actually preview color. So what would happen is the windows would be white and that would be no good to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an old Firefly. So I'm going to go in here, standalone, architectural, glass. I'm going to use an old Firefly glass, which will not be physically accurate, but will be easy to see. So I'll double click. What do I want to apply it to? Well, it's nice and easy, isn't it? I'm just going to apply it to glass. That popped up straight away. Now, there we go. You can see that's gone invisible straight away. Now, the doors are like a smoke glass, so let's do, we'll go smoke glass with that. And what would that be? Okay, sorry, the doors are separate objects, so cancel that. I need to select the doors individually. Right click, select door A, smoke glass, door B, smoke glass, apply that to glass. Okay, there's some door handles there as well. They're probably metal. So let's get some metal here. Okay, now that looks horrible. Okay, as it's only going to be a small bit. Oh no, here we go. So what we're going to give it, let's give it chrome. So we'll go chrome, apply to front door handles, and I'm going to continue clicking off screen, but I'm just going to select this other door now, door A, double click chrome again, front door handles, I'm going to apply it to there. Now let's just give that a little render. And there you go, already that looks 1,000,000% better. There's no lighting in there yet, and that's where things get complicated. Okay, so what I need to do now is to go to this scene and see where the lights have been placed. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the cabin. Let me see, A-frame cabin, there. So now what I need to do is find the lights. I'm not very good at navigating, I'm sorry guys. Right, I bet he set the lights to emit. Let me have a look. So lights, so they're textured obviously. Lights, don't know why I clicked that other thing. Base, okay, that's just a metal color. Emission, here we go. Emission, yep. So the lights are actually, the bulbs are actually emitting. So we could do that. That becomes a little bit complicated, but for the sake of completeness, let's hide this cabin. So I select the cabin, then I go into properties and click visible. So now I can see the lights inside. Now, this can be very time consuming. These are the default Poser lights, and I could just switch them all off, but just for the sake of ease right now, okay, no, I am going to switch them off. So I'm going to use a script up here, utility script, delete lights. Then I'm going to put in a single infinite light. So an infinite light is a light that doesn't create shadows emitting from a single point. If you imagine a spotlight, the rays kind of come out in a wedge shape, whereas with an infinite light, the rays are all parallel, and it gives you really even lighting. So here, it still casts shadows, by the way. So here the sun's straight up at noon, so I'm just going to pull it forward so it shines and illuminates the scene reasonably well. You can see the shadows are a bit annoying, so perhaps I might just go here and turn shadows off so I get completely flat light. So what I've done now is created a nice even light, a little bit like the DAZ headlamp. And now I'm just going to go up to these lights. Now I noticed in the scene that the lights were all individually lit, whereas here they all just count as lights. Let me see what parts we've got. Oh no, here's the individual parts. So okay, we're not going to be able to do emissive here. I think that the lights are all just silver. Let me go back to my DAZ scene and see how he's done lights. Okay, guys, that was weird. So I was misreading what I was seeing here. So here's the scene with the his scene with all of these lights. But what he's done is he's created, and sometimes learning how to read the different components of a scene is as much a challenge as you know, because you're basically trying to understand. You're trying to understand like a code that they've done. So what we have here is an overall object called lights, which comprises of all of these different frames, all of these light frames. That's just one object. And if you change the color of that to any metal color, that will change all of these lights simultaneously. But then he also has within the light these glass emissive bulbs, which create the interesting lighting in the scene, basically spotlight simulators. And these down here in these surfaces are called light and then whichever room. And so if you click on that, then you can open that to see its components, and you'll see the emissive value. The color is white, temperature is 3 to blah 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 blah, whatever that is. So that's quite warm coloured. Poser unfortunately doesn't do warm. It doesn't do color temperature, so you're just going to have to estimate that. And that's fine. And then luminance 150,000, I assume, is it? Yep, 150, 15,000. Okay. So so that was what confused me. I didn't understand because he had named them lights, but I assumed that meant the light housing, but it's actually just the bulbs. So if we go into Poser, what I've done here, if I go back to my scene here, main camera, okay, I've done that in main. I thought I'd done that in alt, but it doesn't matter. Here's one of the bulbs. So I zoom in here, and I don't know which bulb it is, but we're going to set them all to the same color anyway. And we're going to go into material, pick up that bulb, and so you'll see there's the lights is the whole set of them, and then there are different components within it that I can set. So when it's named by the room, that is the bulb. So I'll just start with what we're upstairs. Shall we say light bedroom? Assume that's a bedroom. So what we're going to do, this is going to be ambient. Now ambient means that the bulb is self-illuminating. It's basically a way of doing light. So I'm going to change that color to a kind of a pale white color, and I'm just going to set the ambience to 1 for now. Now, if you ever use an ambient on a TV screen, anything beyond 1 starts to wash the color out, which is a bit of a problem. Sometimes you want bright ambience, but you want the contrast to remain the same. But for this, if I went, suppose I went to a ambient of 100, that would no longer look yellow, that would be white. But I'm just going to test it with 1, and I'm just going to, now this color, I want this to be the same color in every single bulb. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go to Open System Picker. That color's there, and I'm going to add to custom colors. So that's the color I'm going to use. An alternate way would be to left click on here. Let's just call that light. And sorry, not left click, right click, do copy. And now I'm just going to work through all of the different lights. Left click, paste. Oops, actually, left click, replace, because then I don't have to get rid of the other one. Bedroom we've done. Light housing, not interested in. Kitchen, I think the kitchen one's probably brighter, but for now we'll just do here again. So replace, lounge, replace. So now all of the lights in the scene are emitting ambient light. Now the trouble is that ambient light in pose, I don't know if it's just it doesn't work very well, which I suspect is the answer, or if you just need to set really high ambient values. But if I render that now, actually let's take that scene light, which is really just a positioning light, and turn that off and see what effect we get from those ambient lights when we render. No, almost no emission at all. You can see them there, see they're shining, but they do almost nothing. So let's go back to whatever this one is. Let's say that's bedroom, and we're going to see what we can get away with here. Let's go crazy and go 100. Very often when you're messing about, it is just suck it and see what happens when you change some values. Okay, that is actually providing a minuscule amount of illumination here. You might be better to just put spotlights by each of these. It'd be really, really time consuming, but using that ambient is going to be excruciating as well. So right, let's try that again. So lights, bedroom. So I made that 100. Let's try 10,000. 10, 1, 2, 3. I seem to remember that if you go over a certain number, Poser doesn't recognize it and it stops. Oh no, there we go. Okay, so that's clearly too bright. That's actually quite a nice effect. So bedroom. Often if I've got something here that needs repeating multiple times, right, let's do 2000. That needs repeating, I'll just try it on one spot first just to get the values right, and then I'll just copy it across into other places. Okay, so let's bring the frame back in now. So these are all props, by the way. It's not a figure, it's all props. So let's bring cabin back in. Where's cabin? Here. And see what that looks like through the window. All right, where am I viewing from? Okay, now my distant light is turned off, so I can't see a flipping thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my distant light on, but I'm going to turn the value really, really low. So my distant light is on. I don't know why I clicked animating. But the amount of illumination is super low. So let's say 1%. No, a bit more. 5%. There you go, just enough so as I can see that there's glass there, and I'll be able to see what happens now. So you can see those spotlights in the bedroom at the top. Let's give that a little render. Let's move in a bit closer first. Okay, that looks nice. Possibly a bit bright. Let's compare that to the other scene. Obviously not going to be as good, but right, where's my original render? There. Okay, theirs is much cozier looking. So let's give theirs a render from a similar position. I'm just going to turn that cabin back on. Actually, I could zoom inside there and see how bright they've done that. I know this is a bit meandering, guys, but sometimes it's not about going from A to B. It's about the process of assessment that you do to get there. And this is one of those kind of videos that I've been thinking about doing for ages, because this is very much lots and lots of trial and error. So there's the bedroom. So that's actually, these lights are really bright, but the amount of illumination down here seems disproportionately low. But let's go to poser. That's not a million miles off, actually. Let's zoom inside there. And I could create cameras. Oops, I've screwed that up. Let's M for main. I redefine my keys. You won't have M for main. And let's see what my camera's probably a different a different focal length here. So if I go here, now it's a bit more wide angle, so as you can see a bit more. I suspect they're on a wider angle lens. Let's see if I can figure out. Oh, that's still random. Stop that. Right. Cameras. What camera are they on? Okay, we'll talk about that later. It doesn't matter. Right. So let's just give this a render. It's going to be too bright. Yep. Because that's not. Ooh. Yeah, it is too bright. We'll take that down by 60%. And again, it depends what atmosphere you're trying to create. You might be trying to create, that's a great thing about lights, that you can go for different moods, can't you? So let's go back to our bedroom light, which I've now lost because I'm not on lights. There we go. Bedroom. So we'll go down to 60%, so 600, give or take. That doesn't really matter. Now let's give that a quick render. I'm rendering on samples, so there you go. Doesn't that look beautiful? Now, here's another thing that you'll often find. This looks really nice, actually. I'm pleased with that. Okay, this is a bit warmer coloured, so that's where the colour theory comes in. So what I could do here now is just add some warmth to it. So I want to change the light colour. Pick those lights up again. Okay, let's do props, lights, light bedroom. This yellow is obviously not warm enough. In DAZ they can set a color temperature. We can't do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some red to it. So I could just move the color picker around here, or I could go in here, and to add red I take away green and blue. On this occasion I'm just going to go back to the color picker and eyeball it a bit. So I'm just going to head towards the red, but in the same kind of level. Maybe down a little bit to make it much warmer, and see how that comes across. I'm just going to have a slurp of coffee, and that is getting very close, isn't it? Let me have a quick slurp of coffee here. Now, what you'll often find is that things that are meant to be material, such as this duvet cover, if I pick up the material for that, that has a very high specularity. And that's one of the things of converting from exporting in OBJ. Clearly, the duvet cover shouldn't have a high specular value because it's material. Material's got a specular value almost 0. So I would set that to low, or I would load a specular map. And if you recall from before, I'm just creating a new image map, and then I'm going to create another one. I could have copied that blank one, but it's almost as quick to do it this way. If you recall from before, right, that's called bed fabric. In some cases, okay, in this case, the bed fabric, right, it's generally good practice to have a bump map and a specular map and a diffuse map for anything. But there are times when you're just satisfied with the defaults. So that cover here is actually black and white anyway. So let's just look at that in their render. So it's a black and white fabric. So that could serve as a specular map, which would mean then the white bits would be shinier and the black bits would be darker. It could, but really what they've done is they've been a bit lazy, and what they should have here is I'm going to get rid of these. They should have like a cotton map or something like that, but they've decided it wasn't worth it. So all I'm just going to do here is I'm just going to turn the specular down to 0. There are ways that I could do this, but it's a bit beyond the exploration of this video. And then I'm going to render that again. You probably won't see much difference at the moment. Let me compare that to the previous one. That should look a little bit more matte, but I'm rendering at such a low value, and these are not really specular creating lights. So no, you can't see the difference there at all between the two. But if you were going to have other lights in this scene, say coming from where the cursor is at the moment, the specularity would really show up on that when it was set to 1. So just as a good habit. Right, so anything that's wood, you would want to put a bump map on. Anything that's glass, you can just use a poser glass, like one from the material room here. For example, let me see, in Poser 13 they've got included. Then if you go down here, they've got Superfly and Cycles, is it? No, I can't remember where the glass stuff is now. They have got a glass one, but I haven't used it from there because I'm quite happy with my stuff that I've got. Okay. Others, is it in there? No. Okay, this is not very logically organized, you might say. Simple glass, there you go. And I could apply that. I don't know what I've just applied that to. I think I've just applied it to the duvet. So I'm going to undo that. Oh no, it didn't apply to anything. But I could apply that to the glass at the front here, for example. And then one final thing. So let's say that this scene is done now. So, okay. Actually, no, I'm not going to leave it there. I'm just going to adjust the lights for every other room. So what did I have to set that value to in the end? Do you remember? Let's just go to props, lights, bedroom. So the bedroom light was 600 ambient and that kind of orangey color here. So I'm just going to copy that across and I'm going to add that, replace that color actually. No, there we go. And now I'm going to go light bathroom. I don't know if they are the bathroom light on the render here. Here's a render with all of the lights in. We've got a muted kitchen light here. I'm assuming this is the bathroom. That's well, they've got a kind of a hob as well, a hood. Okay, I'll just go through. I'm not going to make them all quite so dark. I'm just going to turn the ambience up. So what did I say? 600. 600. So it's going to be quite bright to start with, and then we can adjust as we go. So kitchen 600. Let's say 700 for the kitchen just to make it brighter. And they're all using the yellow color, not the original yellow color, not the warmer color. We'll go lounge. We'll change that to the warmer color just to give it a bit of the ambience. And again, 600 here. And is that all of them? Yep. Okay. So let's zoom out a little bit so as we can see contrast between different lights. Give that a render. And now look at that. That's really starting to look nice, isn't it? The last thing that I would do here, guys, once I've created this, last two things, is I would open up the hierarchy editor and create a hierarchy of the scene. So the cabin is clearly the parent, and then everything else is a child of the parent at the very least. So now if I move the cabin, everything inside it moves together. Then we've got a floor downstairs. Where's the downstairs floor? Okay, doors, yeah, they're parent of the cabin. Right, okay. I could spend some time putting in pivots or slides on these doors. I'm not going to for now because I'm just giving you the basic idea. Perhaps I'll do it another time. So we've got lower floor. So what's the child of the lower floor? Well, the sofa, the stool. Okay, can I not hold? Yeah, control. What else? Bathroom props, I guess. To be honest, I'm not even sure if it's worth making them children. What I was going to do is I was going to drag those to lower floor. So now you've got the lower floor, excuse me, as a separate thing. But I'm actually going to undo that because I don't see any point in that. The one thing I am going to change though is I'm just going to parent the duvet to the bed like that. So now when you move the bed, the duvet cover goes with it. Everything else really can be just free floating. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my library, and I'm just going to go to here. Oh no, my DAZ library. Where am I going there? Okay, that's weird. Well, I'm going to go to scenes, and I'm just going to save that. Let's just say I'm going to save it in included for now. And all I just do now is do save to library, and I call that whatever, A-frame. And now that's going to save the whole scene. And now anytime I want to load that, I'm just going to save that one more time just to be sure. And I'm going to create new just to show you it's an empty scene. But now if I double click A-frame, that's brought that in. Actually, what I should have done is select, and I'm going to do it now actually, A-frame, and then I'm going to do this to completely replace scene because I want all of the lights to replace everything. No, I'm not going to save. So now it's going to replace all of these lights over here. It's going to replace everything in the scene rather than just add it to it. So that could be useful. You could have like an outside terrain scene that you've created that you load and add to the scene. Or you can just use this as a good way to save your scenes. And there's your A-frame scene, and it's got all the settings that I created for it. And that, guys, is a wrap. I hope you found that useful.